As chair of the Board of Examiners, it's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon and give you an update on what the board has been up to for the last year. Let me move this forward. We're also going to have a little bit of time to talk about some of the key initiatives the board's been working on, and then we'll talk a little bit about some CPA exam trends and volume statistics. Just as a general reminder, this is the structure of the board. We have a 18-member board, 15 of which are voting members, 3 of which are non-voting psychometricians, and of course the psychometricians are the experts on the technical aspects of test development and scoring. So the board is made up of CPA volunteers from all segments of the profession, so that would include public accounting, business and industry, as well as the academic community. There are 3 standing committees that we have: the Psychometric Oversight Committee, the State Board Committee, and the Content Committee. And underneath the Content Committee, we have 4 subcommittees, 1 for each section of the CPA exam. So these are all CPA volunteers supported by the AICPA exam staff. So what is it that we do? The Board of Examiners is a senior committee of the AICPA, and it's tasked with generally 3 things. 1, overseeing the development, the delivery, and the scoring of the CPA exam. So as we go about our oversight responsibilities, it's really always with a view to protecting the public interest. And we do that by ensuring that the candidates possess the requisite knowledge and skills needed for initial licensure. So, for example, we are currently working on our strategic plan. And as part of that strategic plan, we're sitting there trying to think, what does the CPA candidate and what is the CPA exam of the future? What might that look like? What skills will those candidates need to possess? How will we test that on the exam? And then equally as important, is our technology platform positioned to support it? So we are trying to strategically challenge our vision of the future so that we can proactively plan the future of the CPA exam. Ultimately, it is our responsibility to represent the CPA exam to the state boards of accountancy and to the profession. And we want to make sure that we represent the exam and that the highest standards of quality are maintained throughout the CPA exam process. I think it's important to note that the role of the BOE is highly dependent on the strong collaborative relationships that we have built with NASBA and our state boards. So we rely on them heavily for input into our decision-making process. Let's see. Exam content is a major effort of the AICPA exams team. It not only involves the exams team, but it involves hundreds of CPA volunteers who spend literally thousands of hours developing new test questions. So a steady flow of new test questions is imperative to maintain the relevancy and the credibility of the CPA exam. So in developing the exam process, the exam content, the Board of Examiners periodically conducts a practice analysis. So the practice analysis is really the first step in building a technically sound and legally defensible licensure examination. So it involves gathering data on tasks that are performed in the workplace by these newly certified CPAs, and then also gathering data on the knowledge and skills that they need in order to perform those tasks. So then we take that data and we use that to update our CSOs, or the content specification outline. And we consider that to be pretty much the blueprint of the CPA exam. So once the outline of the knowledge and skills eligible to be tested on the exam are finalized, the next step in the process then is to develop the test questions. So as you would expect, we maintain a fairly large inventory of test questions that are available and banked at any one point in time to go on to the CPA exam. So this item bank needs to be systematically and routinely reviewed for obsolescence. So we do that, and we also monitor it pretty closely for things such as changes in accounting terminology. Oops, too fast. So the Board of Examiners oversees the delivery of both the domestic and the international exam. The technology platform that supports the exam is also part of our strategic risk assessment to ensure that the functionalities and the capabilities of the exam are supported by that technology. So we talked about the content development, we talked about the delivery, now onto the scoring. And one of the most important responsibilities that the Board of Examiners has is setting the passing score for the CPA exam. So the passing score is not the number of correct responses, and it can't be translated into a percentage. The total reported score, rather, is a scaled value that really takes into account both the responses to and the statistical characteristics of each question. So for any licensure exam, it's really important to have a formal process to set the passing score in order to establish the base level of knowledge that these candidates need to demonstrate in order to be licensed. So in setting the passing score, the BOE considers a number of factors, including the standard-setting study results, historical trends, changes in the content of the exam, as well as input from the academic community and the profession. Like most other significant BOE decisions, the passing score decision is supported by a strong collaborative effort among our exam partners, in this case being NASBA, the state boards, and some of our consulting psychometricians. When there is a major change in the exam, such as with the introduction of CBTE in 2011, the passing score needs to be reconsidered and reset in order to ensure that there's a legally defensible pass-fail decision being made. So what is it that we've been up to lately? The board has been working closely with the AICPA exams team on a number of large projects, and I think all of which are going to have far-reaching and significant impact on the future of the CPA exam. As I mentioned, the strategic plan, which lays the groundwork for the future vision of the exam, is currently being updated. A major focus in our strategic plan is the practice analysis. And the practice analysis is, if you recall, is the results of the practice analysis will really determine what gets onto the exam, the content and skills that are tested on the exam. The last practice analysis was completed in 2008, and it took a couple years to complete. The next practice analysis is scheduled for 2015, and planning is already underway for that. From a technology point of view, we are seeing significant progress in our platform consolidation that we started over a year ago. So we are really seeing a lot of efficiencies behind the scenes in what we call our content management system. An important new project has just been initiated, and that is a significant update and change and improvement to our technology platform, which is going to give us the flexibility to be able to test new and multiple testing formats that we expect will be suggested from the upcoming practice analysis. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we're not hampered by technology if, in fact, a new testing formats need to come out of the practice analysis. From our item development process improvement, a while back we took a look at how long it took us to get new content onto the exam, and figured that it was taking way too long. So we started re-engineering that process. We looked at it. We are now in the implementation phase of automating certain aspects of our development and review processes, improving our item writing process, and optimizing the overall use of our CPA committee volunteers. Recruiting, we are heavily dependent, and we depend, or I should say, we depend heavily on our volunteers in the overall exam process. So as such, we're always looking for ways to improve our recruiting efforts. We want to make sure that we are able to attract the best volunteers that we can, and then once we identify them, that we have a process that we can match their skills and experience to the vacancies that we have. So last year, we spent re-engineering that process, and we just completed our tentative slate of volunteers for this next year. So I think now is probably a good time just to stop and take a moment and say thank you to all of you for sending us such good volunteers. I stood here last year and was pleading for your help to send us and help us to get and identify the volunteers, and you really delivered. We had a great number of volunteers to choose from this year. So thank you again, and I look forward to your continued support in helping us to identify volunteers for all of our committees, especially those with state board experience. State Board Committee, which is one of our standing committees, they have developed a virtual arsenal of ways to keep the boards current on BOE initiatives, and to also give them an avenue to ask their questions directly of the BOE or to voice their concerns. So as such, we continue to sponsor various update calls, regional forums, we do web chats, presentations to the individual state boards, conferences, and such. We also have developed a CPA exam booklet, which was just released. It provides information on the delivery and administration of the exam, and a little bit of information on the Board of Examiners. So this has been pretty well received. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, I think you all have it at your tables, I would encourage you to take a look at it. It is directed at the state boards, but I think it has a wider application. So if you find that it's useful to you, it's also available online. So we're going to continue to reach out to our state boards and find new and different ways to communicate with them, and any suggestions that you might have are always welcome. I'm going to take a few minutes now to talk about overall exam trends and volume statistics. So as you can see from this chart, candidate volumes really saw double-digit growth up to 2011 when CBT was introduced. You can see in 2010, it was a record year as the candidates rushed to take the exam in the old format. Since 2010, and with the introduction of CBTE in 2011, the growth is really a lot more modest. It is around 3% at this point. I would like to point out that these are domestic volume statistics. The volumes for the international exam, which was first administered in August of 2011, are tracked separately. So while the international growth is somewhat modest at this point, it's fair to say that the candidate's choice to take the exam in an international location has had some impact on these statistics. And Colleen's going to talk a lot more about the international exam in just a moment. Finally, I wanted to share with you our CPA exam pass rates. 2004, the first year that the exam was offered, the computerized exam was offered, up through 2010. You can see a steady increase in the pass rates. Remember, in 2011, with CBTE, we set a new pass rate, but the trend continues. You see an increase in the 2012 pass rates. We think that those increases are within expectation, but the board is currently in the process of doing their annual review of the pass rates to ensure that they're in line with the psychometric standards for the licensure examination. So that pretty much concludes my remarks, and just want to thank you and turn you over to Colleen.